Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Cannoli. Four people here means one thing, more wrestling talk. The Four Horsemen, whatever you want to say. This episode is all about the Intercontinental Championship, the best championship in the history of WWE. I actually have the replica belt. It's one of my favorites. I have the one on the white leather. Love it, love it, love it. So this episode, like I said, it's going to be all about our favorite top five Intercontinental Champions. With me on the panel today, right below me, we have Campo from Campo Reviews. Next to Campo, we have the Putty Man. And next to me, on the top over here, we have the captain of the show himself, Muscles Marinara, Caps. There he is. There he is.
He doesn't deserve all these nicknames.
Okay, we got to think of a better nickname for you then. Make something up. Muscles Marinara just came naturally.
Yeah, it's true.
Can that be my gaming pose for whenever I'm in a wrestling game?
Sure. I don't want it to be anything ever.
Didn't you have a nickname? Like something about
Pickles?
Oh yeah, Pickles Toscanero. Okay, never mind.
I like calling him Campo Crunch.
I have two nicknames. Actually, I have a bunch. I take them all.
See? I got Toronto Franco, so
that's the best one though.
Oh, Franco.
Why do I get Parkins? I don't know why.
Because you're Papa Parkinson's.
Oh.
All right. So with the intros out of the way, Campo, I'm going to have you start with your number 5.
All right. So for this list, it's okay. I want to explain the way I did it first.
No.
So I have them maybe ordered in my way of favorite, but I tried to pick what I thought were the most meaningful people winning the belt. And so my first choice, number 5 for the Intergalactic Championship, is Owen Hart, because I feel like in the amount of time he had it, it meant so much to him, and he played the character so well during that period.
Yeah, Owen Hart is definitely a good choice for that one. Definitely a good choice. Buddy man.
My number 5, again, I was picking more favorites, and again, I picked more smaller wrestlers based on anyway. My number 5 would be Shawn Michaels.
Smaller wrestlers, Shawn Michaels.
Yes.
All right, my number 5 was Mr. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
A good choice.
My number 5 is someone a little bit more current. My number 5 is actually Cody Rhodes.
I mean, I'll allow it,
even though it's my video. Yeah.
But, I mean, none of us watch it anymore, so that's cheating.
The reason behind Cody Rhodes is before he became Intercontinental Champion, it was that ugly purplish oval belt, and he brought back the classic design on the white leather.
Well, that's the best one.
Which is the best one? It's the one I have. On the next video, I'll bring it into the video on the next video that we do. But yeah, definitely, Cody Rhodes is number 5 for me. So Campo, you're number 4.
All right, number 4 Intergalactic Champion of all time is the Ultimate Warrior, because once again, I think he elevated the belt to a new level. Maybe not in terms of his wrestling skill, but he made it a super important belt again.
Yeah, I mean, until
mainstream.
No, but yeah, it's true though, because up until the Warrior won it, yeah, Honky Tonk Man held it for 465 days.
Yes, and nobody cared.
Warrior comes along, wins it in a 30-second squash match, and the crowd goes bananas.
I'm going to debate that. I will debate that with my next pick, but I don't know.
Sure.
All right, my next one.
Yeah.
Okay, mine is Chris Jericho. Don't get mad at me. I know people don't like him, but he had a great reign in my eyes. It was
nobody likes him. He is the most criminally underrated wrestler of all time.
But when he had it, he wasn't really playing the good guy. You know what I mean? But it was a very enjoyable moment. Like it was so.
He's
fun
a great heel.
He is.
Yeah. So Chris Jericho is my number 4.
My number 4, and this is my counter towards what you guys were saying before, is Macho Man Randy Savage. And cream of the crop, debut Miss Elizabeth, probably his best attire throughout that whole
before he became the cowboy thing.
Yeah. So I would say that it was very relevant during his run.
Yeah.
And I will combat that when I get to my next pick.
My number 4 is actually the same as Putty's. It's Chris Jericho. I think he has the most combined reigns of any champion there is. He's held the belt more than anybody else has held the belt 9 times. In a time when the Intercontinental Championship didn't mean anything, he made it mean something at least. You know what I mean? Like Jericho did bring it back to the forefront. At least that's for me. So that's my number 4. Campo.
All right, so my number 3 choice for Interplanetary Champion is the Macho Man. And here's my argument to Nick. It's not that the belt wasn't relevant when he had it. It's that he was bigger than the belt. Him winning the Intercontinental Championship didn't mean anything. When Warrior won the belt, it was like his whole life came to this conclusion. When Macho Man was really a contender, always for the main belt, which is what he should have been. He never should have been in the Intercontinental race. He always should have been in the World Heavyweight race.
I would agree with you 100%. The only problem is the World Heavyweight Champion was Hulk Hogan. And it was
for 7 years, yeah.
I agree. You had to give him something, but I mean, that's where
I
that's
get
why
where
I
you're
feel
coming
like.
from.
Yeah.
But I think Macho Man is the superior Intercontinental Champion. It just didn't mean as much.
Got it.
Okay.
Buddy, number 3.
My number 3, and this again, I like this wrestler, so that's why I wanted to put him on the list somewhere. For me, I had to put Rey Mysterio. I loved him as Intercontinental Champion, even a bit mad him as long as some of the other people and everything. I loved him. So that's my number 3.
Hey, good pick, Rey Mysterio. That means you burn your pick if we do a top 5 luchadors or top 5 cruiserweights.
Oh, see, you can't do that to me now. I'm literally trying not to.
Listen, let's just be happy Goldberg never won the Intercontinental Champion.
I know, right?
Did he? No,
Well, no,
he never
Did
won.
Tori Wilson ever win?
No, but China did.
All right, I'm sure Nick's not picking China.
No, my number 3 is The Rock, and I was a huge fan of The Rock at that time. You started seeing his personality come through. You know, these outrageous, cheesy things that he would come up with. The People's Elbow was invented. You know, he started
The $500 shirts.
He started wearing the expensive clothes. He would say these crazy things. Yeah, that's the most memorable.
That's a great pick. My number 3 is HBK, Shawn Michaels. He worked so good in that era. Same thing that you were saying, Nick. Learning his character and really developing that dickish heel character. Shawn Michaels, that's when he was teamed up with Sensational Sherry, and they were a great pairing. That's when they introduced Diesel into the mix, Kevin Nash. So for me, number 3 is Shawn Michaels, just because of that era and what it meant to that era with Shawn Michaels and the development of Shawn Michaels' character.
Well, I like to I'm going to jump into my number 2, but
sure.
I feel like I already like how different the lists are. I'm just going to say that. So my number 2 plays hand in hand with you, because my number 2 is Razer Ramon, who one of the best runs as IC champion ever in the history of the whole WWE. He won 4 times, 400 days total, over 400 days. And he took part in arguably the first ever ladder match in American wrestling, and one of the best ladder matches that ever happened. Between not between a bunch of high flying guys, between at that time him and Shawn Michaels, and
he was a big dude. It's not like he was a small cruiserweight.
And if you watch the match, and you can actually hear them, there's a commentary they do on WWE YouTube, where they say. Back then, the ladders weren't reinforced, and they did so many spots where they used the ladder as a weapon that they were surprised that he was able to climb up to get the belt off without the ladder breaking.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean,
they weren't gimmick the ladders; they were actual ladders. Yeah,
that launched him into the spotlight as a character. It's the best
he's ever been.
It's the best era of his career. It's one of the comebacks for the title, and I think Razer Ramon, number 2.
Yeah, agreed. Buddy, you're number 2, my friend.
Yes, and this is where I got conflicted with number 1 and number 2, and I decided to put my favorite wrestler number 1 and put him in number 2, even though he would have got the number
Goldberg.
1 spot. No, number 2 for me, and he was so close to get number 1 is Eddie Guerrero. I mean, there was so much Eddie Guerrero did, and I feel like when he had Intercontinental Champion was like a spotlight. It was gold. Like he deserved it, and it was around those times that I was in love with him, Rey Mysterio, that whole, So yeah. Anyway,
I agree, but I also disagree only because of the fact that Eddie Guerrero did not have enough time in the WWE to really shine. If people who really think about Eddie Guerrero, they think of his time as a cruiserweight or as US champ in WCW, as opposed to, or that time he beat, was it Kurt Angle or with his shoe to win the championship?
Yeah. Well, see, that's the reason why I think I still want him on the list. He didn't have that long, but it was the whole cruiserweight thing. Because I did do in my head. Sometimes I always confused because it's basically cruiserweight and Intercontinental. They're basically just from different divisions, but basically the same situation. So I don't know. Again, he didn't.
I'm going to debate that with my number 1 pick, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's where
it's not a bad pick.
No, it isn't. It isn't. That's just me personally speaking.
No, actually, you guys will probably say my number 1's a bad pick, but it's a personal favorite. So
actually, none of the picks on the list are bad. So I agree with everything. Yeah,
these are pretty good. And just to touch on what Campos was saying, these are pretty cool because we all have like pretty much different picks and stuff. So
and like I said, it's just a matter of opinion, and everybody has a different opinion, and that's why we do this, to discuss these opinions.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, Caps, you're number 2, my friend.
Well, just touch on what Putty was saying. Like, I mean, Guerrero had that pretty cool run with the IC belt when he had those series of matches with RVD.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys remember that. You guys remember that ladder match when that fan came in and tried to push the ladder?
Yes.
Yeah. Campos, you were saying that Razer and Shawn was like the first ladder match?
Yeah, it's the first, I think, the first televised pay-per-view ladder match.
Okay. Didn't Shawn versus Brett have a ladder match? Like a Survivor Series, I believe. Like
I don't
remember Shawn and Brett having a ladder match. I remember the Iron Man match at Mania 12, but
I gotta check it out. I don't know. I
think
it might have been.
Anyway,
it might have been.
Was it maybe Brett and Owen had the? No, Brett and Owen did not have the ladder match.
I think I saw something.
That's when he kicked his leg from out of his leg.
Could have been a house show. My number 2 is Bret Hart.
Surprised that's not your number 1.
I have with the IC title, especially with the IC title, I definitely have a favorite for number 1. So
yeah, but Hart's an excellent choice. He was close to making my list. He didn't make my list, but Bret Hart is obviously a great choice. Yeah. My number 2 is actually Caps, because these are 2 of the most criminally underrated performers of all time, and my number 2 is tied between Mr. Perfect and Razer Ramon. These are 2 great performers. The amount of charisma both of them had is unbelievable. The strength. They were actually for a while tag team champions in the AWA. And these 2 are also guys that have never won a world championship in WWE. Criminally underrated. And for that fact, I had to put them both at number 2 because you can't put them anywhere else.
Thanks, Hulk Hogan.
Right? Pretty much.
All right. So Intergalactic Champion number 1. This is okay. And this is fully based on everything involving it. It's Chris Jericho. The longest runs, the most times, arguably one of the best wrestlers of all time based on just raw skill.
I mean, the guy's 50 and he's still going.
He played the heel like nobody's business. He perfected the character in WWE, and he took down some of the biggest names. And for that reason, I think whether it's my favorite or not, it has to be number 1 on my list.
Yeah, I can agree to that. Absolutely, I can.
Well, you guys will not agree to this, but I'm just going to say this. When I was going through the list and looking how long people had this guy didn't have it for long, but I trumped this in there because he's one of my favorite wrestlers. I'm probably not going to put him on another list. That's the reason why I put him on here. And when I realized I forgot the held the belt of the Intercontinental Champion belt I had put on here, it's Ricky Steamboat. I had to do it. I know he's
No,
not,
that's fantastic
it's
pick.
fine.
That's not a bad choice at
yeah,
all.
like
No,
he's my
it
favorite
isn't.
wrestler, and I feel like a lot of people will be against it, but I'm glad you guys said that because
Absolutely. Ricky Steamboat, when the reaction that the crowd gave him at WrestleMania 3 when he beat Savage for that championship,
yes,
he took down one of the biggest names in wrestling, and the crowd went berserk for it. And the raw emotion that you see from Steamboat after winning that belt, I can't disagree with that.
And that's something that we talked about before. It's like when I told you the story when Flair beat Vader for the WCW championship. There back then in wrestling, there was like this real like you won something. Now it's just
it
like
meant
it's all
something.
played like for the story, and I lost myself with that.
Well, that's what that you guys literally hit it on the point. See, the thing is, when you guys told me to make this list and everything, I had to go quickly. But then I'm sitting there thinking, is there any moment in my childhood that made me go, oh my gosh? And you literally just pinpointed the moment that made me go, because the look on his face, like it felt more realistic back then. Like I don't know if he was acting, if he was a great actor, because it was just so.
No, he probably was genuinely excited.
But there was such a huge build up to that match too. Like there was the whole thing. There was the feud with him and George Steele, who was always trying to kidnap Elizabeth and stuff like that. And Steamboat was trying to protect George. It was like it. Not only was it a great match and a meaningful moment when he won the championship, but it told such a great story right up until the match too. Like that match is arguably probably one of the greatest matches of all time.
I've got to remember sometimes, because the thing is, when I make these lists and everything, I always think of the common person. I've got to remember, you guys understand what I feel when it comes to the feels on some of these.
I've been a wrestling fan for over 30 years, so man, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So Ricky Steamboat #1. I had to do it. So
yeah, good choice.
Good choice. My #1 is Razer Ramon.
Another good choice.
The best vignettes, the best intro. The one of the best looks, the best finisher. It's just it is so freaking cool. Freaking cool.
Unlike Lex Luger, he was a total package.
Fuck, it's such a cool theme song. It was just cool.
Yeah.
You get the whole chains mixed with the gold belts.
Part Scarface, part
always grabbing
toothpick.
Always throwing the toothpick in the audience, everything. I love it.
That vignette at the restaurant when he met the waiter.
Yeah, it's just these little things, you know.
Absolutely, can totally agree with that. That's 100%. My #1 is my personal favorite wrestler of all time, and that's Macho Man Randy Savage. He's my #1 for one sole reason. Before Savage won that belt was just a belt. He won it from Tito Santana, and Tito Santana, yes, had a little bit to do with it, but Randy Savage established that belt as, yes, the world champion is the world champion, but the Intercontinental Champion is that workhorse, the one who's going to go out there, give you those fantastic, technical, exciting, exhilarating matches. Like the Intercontinental started meaning something with Randy Savage, and it's been known ever since. It's been known as basically the person. Now it's kind of fallen off the way, but that was the person who used to carry the company. The main event was always the main event, but whenever you were watching the Intercontinental Championship, you knew it was going to be something special. And that's why I had to go with Savage as #1.
And Miss Elizabeth, I had a crush on her too.
Well, who didn't though? Come on, who didn't? Who
Like,
didn't?
my first crush.
As far as like wrestling, like valets went at that time, there was no one better than Miss Elizabeth in terms of the character, really, and
the way she
looked. Yeah, but I mean, she just had this like.
Would you rather look at her or Captain Lou Albano?
Yeah, right. I mean, okay, wait. I meant just. Well,
I mean, kind of. You kind of.
I mean, I feel like Jimmy. You don't want to put Jimmy Hart too far away from that, or Jim Cornette.
Yeah.
Is this the first time we had someone different, like in our #1?
I think so. I think this is the first time we all had something different for our #1.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty diverse list.
I think so. I mean, I to be honest with you too, you guys, I still have honorable mentions that no one even said. So
same here.
I'm living by my rule now that I've established. So first of all, I had no caps.
Yes, I noticed that.
Second, I have a real #1 contender, or honorable mention. It was The Rock, which Nick said. So I'm not really going to get into that, but I'd like to bring up.
I got a few.
Triple H. I don't like Triple H, but I think he was in the IC reign. He was in the IC #1 contender or the title winner for such a long time that to not talk about him is just blasphemous. Whether you like him or not, he's like a staple. When you say Intercontinental Champion, you think Triple H. Like I can argue that a lot of people would put him hand in hand with that title.
I don't need to talk about him.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, even that, like going back to what you were saying about The Rock. The Rock and Austin feud started with the Intercontinental Championship, and it moved to the World Championship. So that belt set the stage for two of arguably the biggest superstars in the history of the company.
I agree. And I think that's why The Rock should be there. That's why I also have Shawn Michaels. I also had Mr. Perfect, who was great.
Yeah.
I'll get into my other two later, or three, but
I got a couple more as well. You guys
bringing those names up those are all good choices. And I just think you have to mention Triple H at least in the conversation.
Okay. Well,
agreed.
Okay. He doesn't have to be on a list. He just at least has to be mentioned.
Yeah. Acknowledged.
Well, I feel the same way, because we actually said earlier another one, but we said it really quick, which was the Honky Tonk Man. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He held that for so long, and it's I remember it distinctly. Like, I thought it was just his belt as a kid. Like, I didn't know.
It just belonged to him.
Can I ask a question? Since you guys are older, you watched it more than I did. That era I did watch, and especially going back to it and watching it, but why did he have it for so long? Was it based only on the fact that he was a heel and they wanted to piss people off? Because I don't see the reason why he had that title for so long.
To be honest, I can't see it either, because there were other people in that era that could have won it. Why did Jake the Snake never win it from Honky Tonk Man?
He flubbed every match. He never had like a really good match. He was just
I honestly think for that year and a bit, there were just literally no contenders, and he was just like a really long time placeholder for when the Warrior was ready to win it. That's my opinion.
The character was good, and like he had that whole heelish vibe with Hart with him and like all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
I think the explanation is that Jake was so over that he didn't need it.
He didn't need the belt.
Yeah.
Jake was so over for so long that he didn't need any belts, which is crazy.
And
the Snake was his belt.
And I was going to include Roddy Piper in the same conversation, but then he did have it
for a while. Yes,
for a short.
He actually beat Bret Hart for it.
Yeah,
at WrestleMania 9.
Yeah,
which is funny too, because
Roddy Piper.
Yeah, didn't he?
Roddy Piper beat the Mountie.
And then Hart won it from Piper. Yeah. In his retirement match.
Close enough.
Well, the reason being,
I'm going to make a movie match.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. WWE didn't want him to make the movie, so he basically would quit the company and went on to make probably one of the best cult movies of all time. They Live.
For fans, that was probably not the greatest thing, but for him in his career, that was the best choice to make.
What are you talking about? I love that movie. They Live is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, fantastic. But for fans to have no Roddy Piper for that long of time, and he was like one of the #1 wrestlers. Like his name was.
He was the biggest heel. He was always Hogan's foil.
I mean, I'm glad he made the movie 100%. It was a great life choice. He'll be remembered forever because of it. So
I mean, it's better than No Holds Barred for sure. When you compare movies,
that's where the line. I came here to chew gum and chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum.
Yep.
One of the names. Right. And one of the names we didn't mention that's probably another one that's been one of the most criminally underrated, who's always been plagued by injuries, is Rick Rude.
Okay. Yeah. I hate you because I wanted to bring it up first, but if he wasn't so injury prone, he would have had the title for a lot longer.
Yeah.
And he won it in a great way too, like great fashion. It was a good match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Rick Rude, he's definitely one of the most criminally underrated guys out there too.
Oh yeah, him and Steamboat both get overlooked a lot. They were great workers. I mean, I'm sure Rude was on all kinds of steroids because he was like
jacked to the gills.
And the character was such a good heel.
Like was it? Yeah, but there was remember the match he had with Thing, and he put Thing's wife's face on his tights, and he's like gyrating.
This is if anyone watching modern wrestling wonders how Mr. Ass or Val Venus became a thing, it's because of
Rick Rude.
Well, and one of our other ones, I even talked about it. Whenever we watch wrestling, it was a family affair. Me and Mom would watch it. My mom despised him so much that every single time that he lost, she would be cheering, and she hated him so much. And she thought it was the most disgusting thing when she put any face would be on his ass. Like, she hated it. So of course I became hate, especially when you put Elizabeth on there. I was like, no, I never liked him in the first place, but she definitely fueled that fire for me not to like him. But it didn't stop from him actually being a good wrestler.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just,
well, that's something as kids you think of the good guy and the bad guy, and as you get older, you appreciate. Well, this guy was not a bad, like, he was a good worker. He was as they say in the industry, he was a good hand. Like, it was
but he also looked like a good porn star too. Come on,
with that mustache, especially when he had the long flowing curly hair.
He would have been the perfect cop in 1988
Yes, and he would fit right in an episode of Miami Vice
on Chips.
If he was hated that much, that means he did his job.
Yeah,
Exactly,
he's one of the best heels that was ever in wrestling.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've always been drawn to the heels. When everybody was like Hogan, I'm like, nah, man, give me Macho Man any day. Like, it's just something that I gravitated towards. Like,
the character was just better.
Yeah, but I mean, how this guy was able to garner so much heat and not really care what other people thought of him. Like, when he used to go, "You overweight," and and he was to call out the crowd, give something for the ladies to look to. You know what I mean? They would do the robe thing. Like, it was just like,
yeah, for sure.
It was entertaining, and I'd rather be even as a young kid, I would have rather be entertained than just cheer for the good guy just because he's the good guy.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Rick Rude's Hall of Fame induction done by his family?
No, I haven't seen that one.
So his son.
Oh, looks like him.
Looks like him. Built like him, and he.
But never went in the industry.
Never went to the industry, but he kind of did like a send off, like a sort of a tribute to him, and he did that speech.
Oh,
you just want to say you overweight, and it's
ugly,
like a massive pop, and it's like the way he did it with such conviction. It's like it was like
I need to look that up.
Rick
I'm
was
gonna
like
go
Rick
watch
Rude.
that right after this.
Yeah, it was like Rick Rude was right there. Yeah, I do need to
It's on
go watch
YouTube
that
somewhere. If you could find it, it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I definitely need to go look that up. Anybody else have any other honorable mentions that
Yeah,
would like? Go for it. Yeah.
Austin.
Caps, give it.
Austin.
Yeah.
Austin is not on my list.
Yeah,
Austin's on mine.
Yep.
He was so underrated before he became champ. Look him up during that 96 run.
When he was the $1 million. Yeah.
His promos, well, just like right after he shifted into that Stone Cold character and he was doing those promos, like, he was the best. The best.
That was peak Austin, yes.
Yeah.
Like when he came up with that Austin 316
speech.
To
shut up.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I would totally overlooked it because I was more of a Rock fan, more of a Bret Hart fan. But when I look back and I see that,
I think in the scheme of his career, that was only the beginning, right? So for me, that's why I don't have him on the list. But I agree with you. You are right about that. Okay, so I have one. Actually, I have two, but I'll say one for now. Goldust, I think. Yeah,
I was going to mention that one too.
The IC battle right from the start of his career. As soon as Goldust got introduced, he was put into the IC category, and he worked. He worked hard, and he was a good champion, and I really liked the character. I think he was so stupid and like crazy and such a weird heel.
Yeah. He pushed the envelope. He really pushed the envelope. That match he had with Ahmed Johnson for the Intercontinental. Remember when he was trying to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and Ahmed Johnson got so mad at him? It's like all you see is like gold paint on Ahmed Johnson.
Just like he was a heel in a new type of way. Like pushing it to the limit.
Something that hasn't. I would even credit some of the stuff that Goldust did with. Like, I would credit Goldust with even starting some of that whole Attitude Era stuff just by pushing that envelope.
Yeah.
Like, he really started something different.
Agreed.
Like, I can totally agree. I can totally agree with that. Those matches he had with Ahmed Johnson. He was supposed to have a series of matches against Razer Ramon, but he left. And that's why the match ended up being with Piper at WrestleMania 12.
They were supposed to have a whole feud building between Ramon and Goldust before he left.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I can totally agree with Goldust for sure.
Well, does anyone have any more?
Yeah,
I got a
I
few
do.
more. Yeah.
Okay.
I got a couple more.
I guess
ahead,
I'll mention. What about Jeff Jarrett? No one mentioned him, and I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not. It's an honorable mention. I mean, I'm not going to say
I mean,
like the best one.
he did have it for a decent amount of time.
He did, yeah. He actually had it a little bit. Wait, I think Shawn Michaels had it longer.
Slightly, yeah.
Did Chris Jericho have it longer than Jeff Jarrett?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Chris Jericho had it longer than anybody else. He had the
No, I didn't think
he had the longest. He had the longest total run. Chris Jericho.
Not consecutive.
Not
I think
consecutive.
Honky Tonk had the longest consecutive.
Longest consecutive run is Honky Tonk Man. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
But yeah, no, but I agree. JEFF JERRETT. Ain't I great?
That's when he was the best that his character has ever
exactly.
When he used to wear that thing that looked like a fence on.
been. Yeah. When you go back and watch that era of WWE right before the Attitude Era, the costumes are so poorly made. Like it looks like everything's gonna break like mid-match.
Like remember when they first introduced Farouk and he looked like this purple gladiator penis looking?
Yes, that's my favorite type of Farouk is purple penis Farouk.
I mean, didn't we get Dude Love during that too? Wasn't that when?
No, Dude Love was Attitude Era.
Yeah, he was a little later. Yeah, but who else was there? There were the Godwins. They were just like farm boys with hillbilly.
And I like I said, watching those matches, like I don't know how they moved in those stupid overalls.
Skip and zip.
Yeah, you're
Body Donis with Sunny
and everything too.
I mean, there was a lot of weird stuff going on back then. Rock had that weird like thing. Listen, you want to see a weird costume? Just go look up Flash Funk. I'm telling you, this keeps coming back. This is like a reoccurring joke here, but just like
El Dandy.
Yo, that guy was an innovator.
Flash Funk, yeah. When he was in ECW as you got it. Too Cold Scorpio in ECW.
He was an innovator.
Probably the most underrated high flyers.
And saying your new name is Flash Funk, you're going to wear platforms.
That's McMahon for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree with that one. Anybody else? Any more?
I'll say my last one.
Sure.
I got a couple more.
I think you can't have this list without saying Greg Valentine.
Yep. I agree. Greg Valentine needs to be there.
I've been doing a lot of like my historical stuff lately because I've been getting back into the old wrestling.
Classic, yeah.
And just like he was a really good wrestler for that time. And you know, he gets overlooked.
He had a great feud with Tito Santana when Tito Santana won the belt.
Yeah. He gets overlooked a lot when you talk about wrestling.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all I have.
Now, I don't want to correct, but this I wrote this on my thing, but I was not familiar with him, and I don't remember who it is. But I did a little Wikipedia search to find my list, and they said he had the most consecutive combined, and you guys said it was Jericho, but it said on Wikipedia that Pedro Morales.
Pedro Morales.
Yes. I don't remember who he is.
Pedro Morales was in the 70s, early 80s. In all fairness,
didn't he lose it to Santana?
Pedro Morales? No, he lost to Morocco twice.
I put it down here. He had combined 619 days with the belt.
Yeah, but the reason why I don't count Morales too is that was pre-WWF. That was like WWF before.
Okay.
Yeah, Ken Patera was also on that list too, right? Like from wasn't he from Hamilton, Ken Patera?
Well, Pat Patterson on there.
Well, Pat Patterson was the first. Yeah, the first, probably arguably paved the way for Canadian wrestlers. First openly gay wrestler. Like he paved the way, Pat Patterson, and essentially that belt was just created for him. He was just given that belt.
Okay, here it is.
Deserved.
Okay, so it's saying Pedro was number 1. Number 2 on this list is actually saying The Miz.
Yeah. The Miz. The only thing The Miz doesn't have, and he's in my honorable mentions just because of that. In the modern day, The Miz is, as heel Miz, like that chicken shit heel type of Miz, is great. He's had some fantastic matches, and you got to say Miz and Dolph Ziggler hand in hand, because some of the matches that they have had were fantastic, and they just get overlooked because The Miz is just this off-putting character. Not a lot of people like The Miz, but see past that and you can see what a good entertainer the Miz actually is.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember, here's the thing. I remember, wasn't he was the one that actually lost that competition, right? Because remember, I remember it was
Tough Enough. Was it Tough Enough? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Tough Enough. Remember, because remember, he
The
actually,
Real World.
Yeah. He actually lost to, I can't remember who it was. And then the person that actually won, like, dropped up the face here while the Miz slowly just like, okay, they gave him a chance.
What was his name? The bald guy.
Maven?
Yeah, Maven. Yeah.
Maven sucked, though. I don't even understand why
he had the best eyebrows.
Well, here's the thing. I liked Maven's personality on the show when they did Tough Enough, and I think that's why he won based on his personality.
That's the only season of that show I ever watched.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think they only did one season. I think after that, she just
they had other shows like that.
Oh, did they? Well,
they had the Diva Search.
But I know the Miz. I remember seeing the Miz on there, and then all of a sudden, like later, even after Maven's run, you see the Miz started trickling in there. Like he should have won, kind of thing. Like Vince knew. So you start seeing him coming in slowly, doing slow things, and then taking off. Like, and
so here's a little interesting fact for you. Right now, the Miz is the longest serving tenured superstar on the roster. Active wrestler. Yep. He's been in the company for close to over 15 years, for sure.
Non-stop, too. I'm guessing, is what I'm saying. Wow.
Rarely gets injured. He's always working. Whenever they need somebody to work a show, the Miz is always there.
Well, okay. You have to admit this. If you
I don't know if that's PG.
But if you go back and actually watch Tough Enough, you can see the passion. He had way more passion.
He always wanted to be a wrestler. He always,
you could see it.
And I don't know if it's the Miz or if it's Dolph Ziggler, but those two are probably Orton, but Orton really isn't there full time anymore. Yeah. Orton's kind of on and off. He is the tag champ right now, but I would say Orton, Miz, and Ziggler right now are the three longest tenured performers on that company that have been consistent, that have never left.
I like.
All right, so Intercontinental Champions.
Yeah, back. Anybody? Okay, one name. Anybody got a name? Because we missed a big name.
I got one. I'll be quick with this one. The only reason why I'm mentioning it is because he was involved with one of the best matches at SummerSlam, and that is Bulldog.
I was just about to say
he did not have a really good run, but that match at SummerSlam '92 was probably one of the best matches I've ever seen. So
that was the first time an IC championship match main evented as opposed to the World Championship.
Yeah, I don't even think Hogan was on the card.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember that one.
But he didn't have the title.
Who did Bulldog lose it to? Shawn Michaels?
Bulldog? I can't remember, but I know Bulldog beat Hart at Wembley Stadium. Yeah. He lost it to Michaels after, yeah.
You talking about British Bulldog?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Never mind.
Okay. For some reason, in my head, when you said Bulldog, I was thinking a total different character at that point.
No, it was the British Bulldog. He actually ended up losing. He ended up losing it to Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, I know Bulldog wasn't really in a good state at that time, but
I think he was released shortly after that too.
I believe he was forced to give up the title in that match. Because
in a way, yes, he was forced to lose. Yeah.
I don't know if he got caught with like drugs or
but that was also at the high point of like the whole steroid scandal with McMahon and all that. So yeah,
and then he came back in jeans and boots.
Jeans and boots. That was the look back then when he started when he joined the Hart Foundation.
Like
I said, I mentioned Dolph and the Miz because you got to say those names. There was and other than that, for me, anybody else got anything else that they want to add to the list? Texas Tornado, anybody?
R-Truth.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
The greatest 24/7 champion.
The 14-hour championship 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven. Anybody remember Mark Merrill's run as the IC championship?
No, I actually saw that on the list because he's like the fifth. It was the fifth person, the longest.
There was a really weird period between like 96 and 99 where a bunch of people had it.
They hot-shotted it a lot. I would say Ken Shamrock's biggest victory in the WWE would be his IC run, but then again, that was a time when basically they were switching the belt every Monday on Raw.
I mean, let's be honest. I think we named all the good ones. If we just went into naming all of them, we'll be here forever.
Forever.
Right? But I do agree. Ken Shamrock is actually one I overlooked. That's not a bad choice.
Yeah. Maybe we can mention D'Lo Brown when we do the European Championship and that little head Bobby used to do. And that chest protector that Roman Reigns stole.
Hey, that was my favorite part. Okay.
What, the chest
protector?
Yeah. All right. So on that note, if there's nothing else you guys want to add to that, this is where we'll end the episode. Thanks again for joining us. You'll find the description to the two gentlemen underneath here in the description box below. Caps, you can find them anywhere, walking the corners at night. And on that note, guys.
He's like, wait, what?
What?
That's what I saw out there.
On that note, guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Okay.